Okay, so for this first one, what it's asking for is the area of the shaded region, so the area of the sector, as well as the arc length of ADB. And it gives us some information here, which I started filling in on the picture. It says that the radius is 5 yards, so I labeled that. And it also says that the measure of angle AOB is 100 degrees. Find the area of the shaded region. It says to give the answer in exact answer in terms of pi, which makes things a little bit easier for us at the end, and indicate the unit. So what we would do is set up the proportion. It tells us that this is 100 degrees. The shaded part would then be 360 minus 100 to get 260 degrees. And then I use that in the proportion 260 over 360 equals area of the sector over area of this entire circle. So part over whole equals part over whole. So continuing to fill this in, we're going to solve for area of the sector, so that's x. And then area of the circle, pi r squared. Pi r, the radius is 5 squared, like this. And then from here, 5 squared would be 25, so I'm just kind of making a note of that because I do have to follow order of operations as I cross multiply. So my plan is to cross multiply to solve for x. So 360 times x, 360x equals 260 times pi times 25. So I'm going to do 260 times 25. 260 times 25 is 6,500. It says to leave my answer in terms of pi, so pi is just going to stay pi. And from here, I'm trying to get x by itself, so I will just divide both sides by 360, like that. And x equals 6,500 pi over 360. And that is actually my answer. That's the area of the sector. I could simplify this, however, ALEKs will accept it like this, so maybe to avoid any errors happening with simplification, just put it in the box like this, 6,500 pi over 360, and then its area, so it would be yards squared. So all this purple is for this area of the shaded region. And when you're doing it yourself, you might not have to show so much work. It's just I'm trying to show the steps visually, so that way you understand each step. Okay, so then the next one, we need the length of arc ADB. So just trace ADB is this whole arc over here. So we need the length of that arc. So we need the length of that part of the circle. So we set up a proportion. Again, this part is 260 degrees. We already found that. Over 360 equals area of the length of arc length over circumference. And circumference is pi times diameter. So again, write that down so as you're doing these problems, you know exactly what to do. And so we have 260 over 360 equals, arc length is what we're solving for, and then circumference is pi times diameter. It shows the radius is 5, so diameter would be 10. Then we can cross multiply. 360x equals 260 times 10 would be 2,600, and then pi just stays as is. And then the last step here, divide both sides by 360. And x equals 2,600 pi over 360. And yes, you could simplify it, or you can just leave it as is. It'll accept it. 2,600 pi over 360. And then because it's just a length, it's just yards. And that's the answer. The next one, very common on like EOC testing, SATs, all of that, where you have to find the area of the shaded region and then use it in a real life scenario. So for this, it says at the park there's a pool shaped like a circle, that would be the middle circle. A ring-shaped path goes around the pool. Got it. Its inner diameter is 16 yards, and that's shown here, and its outer diameter is 24 yards. we're going to put a new layer of coating to the path. If 1 gallon of coating can cover 6 yard squares, how many gallons of coating do we need? Note that the coating comes only by the gallon, so the number of gallons must be a whole number. It also says use value 3.14 for pi, which is important. So with this, what we're going to do is we're going to find the area of the big circle, and then find the area of the small circle, and then subtract those two numbers to find just the path. So the big circle, area of a circle is pi r squared. So area equals, it says use 3.14, and the radius of the big circle is 24. And so in the calculator, we'll do 24 squared, use order of operations, times 3.14, and we get this number. And that would just be yards squared. And then the small circle, same process, area is pi r squared. So we use 3.14 for pi, and then radius of the small circle, 16. Use order of operations, so you have to do 16 squared first. 803.84. Yards squared. And then to find just the path, so path area, we do 1808.64 minus 803.84. You can do that by hand or in a calculator. It comes out to this number. Okay, and then once you have the area of the path, it wants to know how much paint. It says the paint 1 gallon covers 6 yards, square yards. So we take 1004.8 and divide it by 6. And that equals 167.47. So it wants to know how many gallons do you have to purchase? Well, in order to cover this, you'd have to purchase 168 gallons. Just be careful, because this would technically round to 167. However, because of this situation, we need 168. Okay, the last one's the easiest and the shortest, actually. But again, so common on standardized testing, where you have to find the area of a shaded piece. So to find the area of like just the shaded part, you have to find the area of the whole thing, and then subtract the part out of it. So for this, it wants to know the area of just the shaded part. So we have to find the area of the rectangle, like the large rectangle. Area of a rectangle is just like base times height, or length times width, however you want to think of it. So that would be, I know it's hard to see, this is an 8 and this is a 6. So it'd be just 8 times 6. So area equals 48 centimeters squared. And that is the whole thing. I like to put sometimes that number in that space to make a note, like that's the whole thing. And then I need to find the area of this little triangle here and subtract it. So the dimensions of this triangle, let's see, if this is 4 and this is 6, 6 minus 4 is 2, so this would be 2. And then for the base of this triangle, 8 minus 3 would be 5. And then area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So 5 times 2. So 1/2 of 10, which is 5 centimeters squared. So this little piece is 5 centimeters squared. That's the area of this part. And then to find just the shaded part, we can do 48 minus 5 equals 43 centimeters squared. So that is your answer, 43 centimeters squared. And that is all. So what I want you to do is leave this out. I want to come around and give you credit for it. And then while I do that, I want you to take your notes out and set them up like this. Handwriting issues. Okay. So leave this out and then set this up. So area of triangles. So triangles that look like this or like this. So write this on the top of your paper while I go around and give you credit.